The Galactic Summit was the pinnacle of diplomacy, a gathering where centuries-old feuds between alien civilizations were settled under one roof. The chamber buzzed with tension, voices raised in debate, but at the center of it all stood Caleb Ryland, Earth's greatest diplomat. His calm demeanor and eloquent words carried the weight of Earth's reputation, a reputation he had carefully crafted through countless acts of peacekeeping. To many, Caleb was a legend, a bridge between the fierce individuality of humanity and the rigid hierarchies of the galaxy. As Caleb spoke, his words dissolved hostility like water-dousing flames. Two alien leaders, whose species had been locked in a deadly spiral of vengeance for generations, sat back in their seats, silenced by his logic. It was what Caleb did best. He found the common threads in the vast tapestry of galactic cultures, weaving them together with humanity's unique perspective. Then came the moment no one expected. A figure moved through the shadows at the edge of the chamber, swift and deliberate. A single flash of steel, an energy blade, and Caleb Ryland fell, his words cut short. Chaos erupted as guards fired on the assassin, cutting them down, but it was too late. Caleb's lifeless body slumped to the floor, his hand clutching at his chest as the light in his eyes faded. The aftermath was a cacophony of panic and disbelief. Leaders who had come to trust Caleb for his unmatched ability to mediate disputes were now left reeling. Within hours, the investigation yielded damning evidence. The assassin was an Imperial operative. The Galactic Empire, the overarching authority of the galaxy, had sanctioned the murder. Why? Theories abounded, but none prepared Earth for the harsh truth. On Earth, the news of Caleb's death was met with shock and fury. Broadcasts replayed his final moments, accompanied by haunting questions. Why had the Empire done this? What could justify the killing of a man whose life had been dedicated to peace? In every corner of Earth, the outrage was palpable, but so too was the sorrow. Caleb had been a symbol of humanity's highest ideals, and now he was gone. Within the United Earth Council, emotions ran high. Grief mixed with anger as Earth's leaders debated their response. For years, Earth had been the newcomer to the galactic stage, the underdog among civilizations that had mastered space travel millennia earlier. Humanity had always relied on Caleb to smooth the rough edges of diplomacy, masking Earth's growing fears about its vulnerable position in the galaxy. His assassination exposed a grim reality: peace was fragile, and Earth's survival depended on its ability to defend itself. That realization was not new to everyone. As arguments raged in the council chamber, high-ranking military officials revealed a secret they had kept even from their civilian leadership. Since humanity's first contact with the galaxy, Earth had been quietly preparing for a moment like this. While outwardly projecting diplomacy, humanity had been reverse engineering alien technology, crafting weapons and defenses unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. One general stood and declared what had only been whispered before. Caleb's death will not be in vain. Earth is no longer a bystander. We will make the Empire answer for this. The room fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. This wasn't just a declaration of war, it was a reckoning. The response came swiftly. Within days, Earth mobilized. Fleets once hidden in orbital shipyards were revealed, bristling with weapons powered by hybrid technologies. The saard program, a secret branch of operatives trained in harnessing latent psychic abilities, was activated. Humanity's military might, though underestimated for years, was suddenly a force to be reckoned with. Earth's declaration of war was delivered to the Empire with a chilling precision. There was no grand speech, no drawn-out negotiations. A simple message was transmitted across the galaxy. Asterisk. You killed Caleb Ryland. Now we fight. Asterisk. For the first time in its history, humanity stood united not just in defense, but in defiance. Caleb Ryland had always believed in the power of words to change the galaxy. Now, with his death, Earth vowed to speak its loudest through action. The first strike was surgical and devastating. Earth's fleets, long hidden and underestimated, launched an assault on an Imperial outpost orbiting the gas giant Zorath Prime. The outpost was vital, a key logistics hub feeding the Empire's war machine. The Empire's commanders, complacent in their superiority, had anticipated nothing more than token resistance from humanity. What they received was annihilation. The Earth fleet emerged from hyperspace cloaked in experimental shielding technology, rendering them invisible to standard detection systems. By the time the outpost's defenses detected the assault, it was too late. Precision strikes disabled the outpost's primary energy grid, followed by a barrage of railgun fire and EMP detonations. Imperial ships scrambled to respond but were systematically dismantled. Earth's tactics were unconventional, unpredictable, and devastatingly effective. In the aftermath, Imperial analysts struggled to comprehend how a so-called primitive race could achieve such a decisive victory. What they didn't know was that humanity had spent decades perfecting hybrid technology, blending the Empire's own advancements with Earth's raw ingenuity. The railguns, for instance, combined the precision of human engineering with energy-dampening fields stolen from Imperial prototypes, allowing them to penetrate even the strongest shielding. The first strike sent a clear message: humanity was no longer a passive participant in the galaxy. Meanwhile, Earth was not fighting alone. Caleb Ryland's legacy lived on in the alliances he had forged. Among the many species he had helped, the Zurak stood out. The reptilian race had suffered under the Empire's oppressive taxation and military conscription for centuries. Caleb had been instrumental in giving the Zurak hope, mediating conflicts within their fractious clans and planting the seeds of rebellion. Now, with Earth's war against the Empire, the Zurak saw their chance for freedom. The Zurak clans brought invaluable assets to the fight. Their deep space mining expertise gave Earth access to raw materials, and their guerrilla warfare experience helped refine humanity's unconventional tactics. Together, they began to strike at the Empire's soft underbelly. Supply chains were disrupted, communications relays destroyed, and Imperial forces stretched thin across their sprawling domain. Amid this rising tide of rebellion, Earth unveiled a weapon the Empire had no answer for: the saard. These operatives, trained in secret and enhanced through years of experimentation, possessed abilities that defied conventional understanding. Telepathy, precognition, and even psychokinetic force manipulation made them a force to be feared. But their strength came at a cost. Prolonged use of these powers drained them physically and mentally, requiring discipline and restraint. One of the most promising recruits, Ava Harker, was thrust into the conflict during its most chaotic phase. Ava's abilities were raw but powerful. She could manipulate enemy combatants' thoughts, creating confusion and disarray on the battlefield. On her first mission, she led a saard team to infiltrate an Imperial storage facility. The operation was a success. Key supplies were stolen, and the facility was rigged to self-destruct, but the mission left Ava shaken. She had touched the minds of Imperial soldiers, feeling their fear and desperation. The toll of such psychic contact weighed heavily on her, a grim reminder of the cost of wielding such power. As Earth's offensives gained momentum, the Empire responded with brutal force. Entire colonies were razed in retaliation, their populations wiped out as a warning to others. Earth mourned its losses but refused to falter. For every colony destroyed, 2 more rebel factions rose up in defiance. The galaxy was beginning to see the Empire's cruelty laid bare, and the seeds of discontent planted by Caleb Ryland began to sprout into full-fledged rebellion. In a show of overwhelming force, the Empire deployed its dreaded fleet of Titan-class dreadnoughts. These ships were gargantuan, bristling with enough firepower to decimate entire fleets. But Earth had anticipated this move. The Zurak shared intelligence about the weak points in the Titan-class design, over-reliance on centralized power cores. Earth's engineers devised a solution: compact drones equipped with gravimetric disruptors. These drones swarmed the Titans, exploiting their vulnerabilities and neutralizing their firepower. The Battle of Zorth Prime became a turning point in the war. A single Titan-class dreadnought, the Imperial Wrath, was brought down by a fleet of Earth ships working in perfect coordination with their allies. The sight of the Titan's fiery descent into Zoratha's atmosphere became a symbol of hope across the galaxy, a reminder that even the mightiest could fall. The Empire's retaliation grew more desperate. They increased patrols, tightened control over their territories, and deployed more troops to quell the uprisings. But for every measure they took, Earth and its allies found a countermeasure. Humanity's unconventional tactics were unlike anything the Empire had faced before. Where the Empire relied on brute force and rigid hierarchies, Earth leveraged creativity, adaptability, and a willingness to take risks. With each victory, Earth's message spread further. This was no longer just a war for vengeance, it was a fight for freedom. Alien species across the galaxy, long subjugated by the Empire, began to rise up, inspired by humanity's defiance. The Empire, for all its strength, was beginning to show cracks. And Earth, underestimated and overlooked for so long, was leading the charge to tear it apart. The momentum of the war had shifted, but the Empire was far from defeated. In their desperation, the Imperial High Council authorized measures that exposed the true depths of their arrogance. They began deploying experimental weapons designed to crush resistance across their dominion. These weapons weren't just designed to kill, they were meant to terrorize, sending a clear message to the galaxy: defy the Empire, and face annihilation. Earth's intelligence networks intercepted critical communications that revealed a chilling truth. The assassination of Caleb Ryland wasn't merely a calculated political move. Deep within the Empire's archives, a prophecy had been unearthed, one that foretold a human leading to the Empire's downfall. Caleb had known. Before his death, he had started piecing together fragments of this prophecy. It wasn't superstition or myth. The Empire believed it, and they had acted decisively to eliminate him before it could be fulfilled. Yet, in killing him, they had unwittingly set the prophecy into motion. This revelation hardened Earth's resolve. The war wasn't just about Caleb's death anymore. It was about unseating an empire that feared humanity's potential. It also became a rallying cry for the galaxy's oppressed. What had begun as Earth's war for survival was evolving into a rebellion that spanned star systems. Amid this turmoil, Ava Harker found herself on her most dangerous mission yet. As part of the saard, she was tasked with leading a strike team to sabotage an Imperial supply chain deep within contested territory. The Empire's forces were tightening their grip on vital trade routes, and Earth's survival depended on severing these lifelines. Ava's powers, while formidable, were still unstable, and every mission pushed her to her limits. The operation was a calculated gamble. Ava and her team infiltrated a heavily guarded depot, using their psychic abilities to sow chaos among the guards. Ava's telepathic influence turned Imperial soldiers against one another, creating just enough distraction for her team to plant explosives at critical points. As they made their escape, Ava collapsed, her mind overwhelmed by the strain of manipulating so many minds at once. Her team carried her back to safety, their mission a success, but at great personal cost. The saard's powers, though revolutionary, came with a price, one that humanity was only beginning to understand. While Ava recovered, the Empire launched a counteroffensive. The Battle of Dorsey's Prime became a brutal test of humanity's resolve. The Empire fielded one of its largest fleets, expecting to crush Earth's forces with sheer numbers. But humanity and its allies had learned to adapt. Caleb's teachings, his ability to forge alliances and think outside the rigid structures of galactic politics, had left a lasting impact. The Zurak, along with several smaller factions, joined Earth's fleet, their combined forces a patchwork of ingenuity and defiance. The battle raged for days. Earth's fleet, though outnumbered, used hit-and-run tactics to devastating effect. AI-guided drones targeted weak points in Imperial ships, while Zurak guerrilla ships struck from unexpected angles. The turning point came when a daring maneuver by an Earth captain disabled the flagship of the Imperial fleet, throwing their forces into disarray. Victory at Dorsey's Prime marked a new chapter in the war, proof that the Empire's grip on the galaxy was loosening. In the aftermath, a discovery was made that reignited hope. Hidden among Caleb Ryland's personal effects was a coded message, one he had prepared before his death. The message contained coordinates to a system deep within the Empire's territory, a system housing what Caleb believed to be the key to their ultimate victory. It wasn't just a message, it was a challenge. Caleb had foreseen the war and had left behind a blueprint for how to win it. The coordinates led to the Empire's central AI nexus, a facility responsible for coordinating its vast fleets and planetary defenses. Destroying it would cripple the Empire's ability to maintain control. But the mission would be nearly impossible. The nexus was located on a heavily fortified planet, surrounded by orbital defenses and patrolled by the Empire's elite forces. Yet, if Earth and its allies could succeed, it would mark the beginning of the Empire's end. Ava, still recovering from her last mission, volunteered for the operation. Despite her growing doubts about the toll her abilities were taking, she understood what was at stake. Humanity was on the brink of reshaping the galaxy, and Ava was determined to see it through. The final phase of the war began with a plan so bold it bordered on madness. The Empire's central AI nexus was the heart of their war machine, coordinating fleets, managing supply lines, and ensuring absolute control over their vast territories. It was buried deep beneath the surface of the fortress world Avarice Prime, protected by layers of orbital defenses and surrounded by the Empire's most elite forces. To destroy it would cripple the Empire, but the cost of failure would be catastrophic. Earth and its allies gathered their forces, knowing this would be their most dangerous mission yet. The combined fleet was a patchwork of humanity's ingenuity, and the contributions of dozens of alien species who had thrown off the Empire's yoke. Each ship, from Earth's sleek hybrid vessels to the Zurak's rugged guerrilla craft, represented a commitment to a shared cause. The galaxy had united behind humanity's defiance, and now they were ready to strike at the very heart of the Empire. The plan was as audacious as it was desperate. A massive, coordinated assault on Avarice Prime would draw the Empire's fleet away from the planet, leaving its defenses vulnerable. Meanwhile, a covert strike team, led by Ava Harker and the Saard, would infiltrate the AI nexus and disable it from within. If successful, the Empire's fleet would be thrown into chaos, giving the Allied forces the opening they needed to claim victory. The battle in orbit was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Empire's dreadnoughts loomed large, their firepower devastating, but Earth's fleet had learned to turn the enemy's strength against them. Compact drones outfitted with gravimetric disruptors swarmed the massive ships, exploiting the weaknesses in their centralized power systems. Allied ships struck with precision, using guerrilla tactics to sow confusion and panic among the Imperial ranks. Despite their losses, the Allies held their ground, buying precious time for the infiltration team. On the surface of Avarice Prime, Ava and her team moved through the shadows, evading patrols and disabling automated defenses with a combination of psychic abilities and human ingenuity. The weight of their mission pressed heavily on Ava. Every time she reached out with her mind, manipulating enemy soldiers or scanning for traps, she felt the strain growing. Her powers, once a source of pride, now felt like a double-edged sword, draining her with each use. As they descended into the depths of the Nexus, the team encountered resistance that grew fiercer with every step. The Empire had anticipated an attack, and their elite soldiers were ready. But the Saard's abilities turned the tide. Ava's precognition allowed them to avoid ambushes, while her telepathic influence turned Imperial soldiers against one another. The cost was high. Several of her team were lost along the way, but they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure was not an option. At the heart of the Nexus, they found the Central AI Core, a sprawling construct of alien technology that pulsed with an almost sentient awareness. Disabling it would require Ava to push her abilities to their limit. As the team set charges to destroy the physical infrastructure, Ava reached out with her mind, seeking to disrupt the AI's systems long enough for the explosives to detonate. The experience was overwhelming, a clash of wills between her fragile humanity and the cold, calculating intelligence of the Empire's greatest weapon. Just as the AI began to overwhelm her, Ava found strength in the memories of those who had fallen. Caleb Ryland's teachings echoed in her mind, a reminder of humanity's resilience and defiance in the face of impossible odds. With a final surge of effort, she severed the AI's connections, leaving it vulnerable to the charges. The team barely escaped as the explosives detonated, sending a shockwave through the planet that rippled across the Empire's entire network. In orbit, the effects were immediate. The Empire's fleet, cut off from centralized control, descended into chaos. Ships collided as communication systems failed, and the once coordinated forces became a disorganized mess. The Allied fleet seized the opportunity, launching a decisive assault that routed the remaining Imperial forces. The battle was won, but the cost was staggering. Hundreds of ships were lost, and the battlefield was littered with the wreckage of countless sacrifices. The destruction of the AI Nexus marked the beginning of the Empire's collapse. Without their centralized systems, they could no longer maintain control over their territories. Uprisings erupted across the galaxy as oppressed species seized the moment to rise against their overlords. What had started as Earth's war for vengeance had become a galaxy-wide revolution. As the dust settled, Ava returned to Earth, her body and mind scarred by the toll of the war. She had fulfilled the prophecy, but at great personal cost. Caleb Ryland's legacy had been honored, and humanity had proven its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as leaders who inspired change. The galaxy was free, but it would never forget the price. Ava stood among the ruins of what had once been an empire, looking to the stars with a mix of hope and trepidation. Humanity had won its war, but the future remained uncertain. For now, though, the galaxy belonged to the free, and Earth's voice echoed across the stars as a beacon of resilience and defiance.